Hello and welcome to a new Third Win video. Today we're going to be continuing on our AHS Ranked series, and today we're going to be doing 1984. And let's just begin. Let's see what our top 10 favorite characters are from this season. So first, I'll begin with the honorable mentions, and coming in first, number 14, well, the honorable mentions we'll just do in any order. But Chef Birdie, she just isn't, enough of a character. Don't get enough of her for me to really put her in a top 10. But she's an honorable mention just because, she carries some soul and she has some good scenes together with Mr. Jingles and even Xavier. So, I wish this is like a perfect role for if Kathy Bates wanted to be in the series, but she wasn't. So, yeah, more of a minor character. Next, we got Bruce, who we had quite a few villains in this season, and he just felt like a little bit overdone. The episode with him was quite, it was all right. I mean, obviously, he represents a certain kind of persona in those 1980s slasher films, so I respect that. But we just have some more in-depth characters that I enjoy more. At number 12, we get Bobby Richter, and that's just because he's only in one episode, and we don't really get a sense for any extra character depth, and his name is more valuable than the character itself. That being said, that last episode is probably my favorite of the season, and he does pretty well as Bobby Richter, very well. And I'm glad we got to see the actor in more of a lighter role. 11, we have Lavinia, who really doesn't comparable with all the others honorable mentions. She's just not as heavy as a character, although I will say I enjoyed her much more as a quote-unquote villain than Bruce. But no, I really liked the whole Lady in White thing. It was pretty brilliant, and the little we did get of her I thought was really, really well done. But now we get into the meat of the show, our main characters, and we're going to start off at number 10 with Ray. So I thought Ray, he didn't have anything really unique. He wasn't really a great person. He ran away from them when they needed him. He left Chet in the pit. There's just nothing super likable about Ray, except his death. That was very entertaining. So I have him at number 10 just because, it's good that he was there, but also we have more likable characters. At number 9, we have Chet. Again, Chet, there was some funny lines and whatnot, but we don't really, his character isn't fleshed out, and it's not that he's not likable, because I think he is, but he just doesn't stand out as much as the rest. Though I think, again, he portrays the stereotype from the 80s, so his place is kind of there. Although I think Trevor almost does his stereotype a little bit better, even though he's not as kind of muscular and whatnot. But yeah, moving on. Number 8, I'm going to have Xavier. Xavier's at number 8 for some of the same reasons as Ray. Only he's a little bit more entertaining than Ray. He gets more screen time. He has some really funny lines, like after he gets burnt in the oven, he goes, "Because of you, my future is now in radio." It's so good. And kind of his backstory, we get more, a more interesting backstory with him. And I like his little lines of hate towards Margaret. So for me, overall, he gets 8th place. Again, nothing special. These three that I've just ranked, I don't know. They just kind of don't stand out as much as the rest. And now we've gone to number 7, where I have Donna. I don't really like the flip-flop between her being bad and her being good. I liked her backstory with her dad. That was really dark, but really interesting, and why she went into this line of work. But then her crazy mind decides to let out an alleged serial killer just for a science experiment, and then she just gets redeemed as, all is well, a good guy, final girl. I don't think so. Not for me. I didn't really like her character that much, although interesting at times, and it just feels a little irrational. At number 6, we have Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez, um, for me, is I like that they took like a real life serial killer. I always like when they draw into like real American horror stories, and I think they did him justice enough. He was entertaining. I think that's the word I'd use for him, but they went a little bit too far on the supernatural for my part. Like making him completely unkillable is kind of lame. And I understand he has a deal with Satan and all that, but that's what draws him down to 6th place for me and makes him kind of, a middle tier villain in this season. Other than that, I think he's super entertaining. I love the fact that he loves Billy Idol, and he simps pretty hard for Montana. Let's see. Number 5, we have Margaret. I don't think she was the best villain in this season. Although I think she was played very well, and obviously she's designed to be hated almost from the first moment of the show, and she does that perfectly. That being said, she just... I don't know. She doesn't have any kind of likable bone in her body, and that to me, I need something. I usually, for a bad guy, I like something there, some kind of thing that the audience can latch onto about the character, some kind of backstory that's more interesting. But her backstory was just she snapped and she went crazy and she wanted to kill her friends, and then she she did it smartly, but there's nothing kind of, it's almost too inhumane. But that being said, she's a gruesome villain and one of the scariest we've had in American Horror Story. So she gets her credit for that. Next, we have a number 4. We have Brooke. Brooke is one of those where you think she's really simple, but actually she is quite complicated. And when she gets thrown into prison and how her attitude changes, and a little sort of justified, but not, she did murder one person, that being Montana, and kind of justified being in prison, but at the same time she got framed. I think it's really great. And when she gets out of prison, she gets to experience the 80s, but it's not in the 80s anymore. And I like her in the beginning, and I think she serves as a great final girl. And I don't know, I think that she grounds the series a little bit with being probably the most quote-unquote normal character in the season. And I think she did the role justice. Emma Roberts. Number 3, I have Trevor. I want to put Trevor higher, but I'm just going to take a sip of water. I want to put Trevor higher, but to me, the characters that top this list are just a little bit more either intriguing or more in depth as a character. We don't get a backstory on Trevor, but I absolutely love the love story between Trevor and Montana, and the jokes about, his big, what. And I love the heart. I love that he, fights for the group without even knowing them for very long, and he's got swagger, This is what a cool 80s guy is like. And I absolutely love Trevor. I thought he surprised me from the get-go at how entertaining it was to watch Trevor. Next, it would be cool to have him, by the way, in a future season of AHS, the actor that is. Next, and this is one where I can flip-flop depending on the day, but I have Montana. The reason I have Montana so high, don't forget she's number 2. Not just because she's not number 1, it doesn't mean I don't like her. But the reason she's so high is because I feel like she really embraced what the 80s was, and she kind of always, if you forgot, she reminded you it was the 80s that we're talking about here. And her style, her personality, very entertaining, a little bit crazy. I liked her kind of villain aspect, what she did, the terrible things she did, and I thought it was actually more believable and crazy. And I love the two-sidedness of her, and her love story with Trevor, obviously, as I mentioned before, was incredible. And her embracing being a ghost is also quite interesting. So The 80s never die, you know? Next, and finally, we got a number 1, Mr. Jingles. So, Mr. Jingles is just like, I don't know, a perfect tragedy. I like saying that a lot about characters, but they did this one perfectly, you know? He's this, maybe you could probably say innocent guy who gets framed for murder of several kids, and then he gets sent to an insane asylum. I think it's an insane asylum, or maybe it's a jail with a psychiatric ward. And he gets tormented and shock therapied into believing that he actually did it because they forced him to confess to it. And then he gets let loose, and he does all the atrocities again on his day. And then and then he understands that he didn't actually do it, and it's just craziness. And his fights with Richard Ramirez, you know, this character on an entertainment level, on a depth level, on a character level itself, like how strong the character is so strong. And then his love for his son, and the love for his little brother, and the, you know, the will for closure, and his mother, and all together, and his interaction with all the other younger characters is, I don't know, that's what makes this season good for me. Without Mr. Jingles being redeemed, or whatever you want to call it, being fleshed out, this season would have stunk. But instead, this season was great because, wow, what an entertaining character and you know, for me, the more and more I think about it, I used to think Montana number 1 or Trevor, but no, it's really Mr. Jingles that makes this season. And I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments how you would rank these characters. This is my list that you can see on the screen. I'm going to zoom out for you guys so you can see it all in one shot. And leave a like if you like this series, if you like AHS content. That lets me know if you want more. And subscribe so that you can see it in your feed, and it really helps the channel when you subscribe because it makes me happy. That being said, that's the video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.